I'll dream until I make it real, and all I see is.
Well, welcome to Mentorship Monday with Michelle and Maren, where we are talking about everything spiritual. We are magical, mystical mamas that are 1 foot in the spirit world, 1 foot in the grocery aisle, and we are bringing you all kinds of good stuff. And we're happy to have you here today. And I'm so happy to be here with you, Maren. How are you doing?
Michelle, I'm doing good. I love that. That is so true.
Yep.
I was just talking to you right before we hit record. It's like, okay, right after this, I've got to run to the grocery store, and then I have to run home, and then I
Yep.
have to run to my son's play, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It
And that's
is,
how it is, right? That's
right?
real life. That's real life.
You can't be
Yes.
all spiritual. You got to have some physical too. You got to have some
But
responsibilities,
everything's
right?
sacred. Even the trip to the grocery store is sacred. It's all sacred. It is, we bring all of this with us. It doesn't have to be in separate containers. We bring it
Hmm.
all with us, and it's integration. But it is not like, integration. It is having that within us and blending with, I'm in the grocery store and, oh, what's that? It's $11.11. Of course it is. Of
Of
course
course,
it is, because I'm in alignment.
that's right.
Yeah,
I feel like that just happened to me the other day. I was like,
yeah,
I can't remember what it was, but yeah. Yeah, and I feel like when I go out into the world, well, okay, I just have to, I'm going to back up.
okay,
I'm still like, well, I think I'm a new self, and that's why, but I was going to say I'm still
yeah,
reaping the benefits of the activation that we did a few
mhm,
weeks ago now.
mhm,
Um, but I think it's because it's not like it was like this, like good juice that I drank and it like runs out. It's because I
mhm,
literally have like released and I'm a new me.
yeah,
Um, and things have been really good.
yeah,
And like just like the confidence of who I am and the
mhm,
self that I show the world is
mhm.
so different. Well, it's not different. It's just
Well, it is. It feels different.
it
It
feels
feels
different.
different
But I don't know
because
if
it's
like
more of
anyone
an,
noticed. I noticed.
no, but this is important that you brought this up because when we, now here's kind of this, here's a little secret. Here's a little backdoor secret of why this feels different and what really happens. Because behind the scenes, a lot of the internal work that we do, the rest of the world doesn't see it. For the most part, do we really walk around with a flag out as we're walking through the world saying, hey, like, just so you know, while I'm here in the grocery store and I'm in the pickup line at school, or I'm doing this, I have just worked through 3 timelines. I have meditated for 20 minutes. I have moved my maternal ancestral line and pulled the golden thread out. I talked to an Arcturian, and at the same time, I made dinner and unloaded the groceries. You know, no, we don't do that, but we know we did. We know we did.
You know what is so funny is like I feel so busy and I'm like I don't think that my like coworkers feel this busy. Why do I feel this busy? And then I like went through that exact thing. I was like, well, I've got my like I've got my little mentorship with you that I do. And then I've got my readings that I do. And then I've got like my spirituality that I do to prepare for my readings. And
Mm-hmm.
then I've got my
Mm-hmm.
classes and my activations that I do. And then I have got a full life for me. You know what I mean? I've got my
Yes.
full personal life, I
Yes.
guess. So,
And Maren, do you know for the last 10 years, and I don't say this with a resentful heart or frustration, even though I felt those things here and there, like I did, I had to go through that. But how many people in my personal life that have known me personally that were not walking with me through the internal work and really understanding what was happening to me And at first I wanted to tell them, I wanted to explain it because it was so monumental and big and affected everything within me, affected my perspective, my whole, and that's what the awakening process does. But yet the outside world and those that know us really well, they know the version of us that we've been for such a period of time, that the changes that are internal can look crazy and disassociative and la la land and you're cracking and all of these other things. And what Spirit said to me very early on is stop trying to prove, stop trying to defend, stop explaining and over explaining yourself. Allow people to just be where they are, and they will either walk with you or they won't. And keep doing what you're doing because you know it feels right. You don't need all the answers. You don't need to know the how, the when, the why. You just need to know that it feels right now. And that's what I followed. And so I say this because for many, many years, I was well aware of the viewpoints of me is Michelle hibernates. She doesn't come out of her house very much. She doesn't socialize anymore. She doesn't come and do the things that she used to do. I haven't heard from her. She doesn't post on Facebook the same way. She doesn't, like, all of these things have gone on. And what does she do? I heard she does some readings. I heard she thinks she's spiritual. I heard she says she's a psychic. And I don't say that with this reverence of, how dare they? And did those things hurt when I knew? Sure they did. Sure they did, because it's like a feeling misunderstood is what I felt like and what many of us have felt like throughout our life is like, but, I want to explain different. No, you're wrong. No, that's not it. And that was me because I was always very defensive. But lovingly over time, and this is what confidence really is, and this is why it's so important what you just said. Over time, as we trust what's internal, and the other little dangling carrot that Spirit always gave me is your validation on the outside is not the truth of the path you walk. And this goes for the critical and the hard comments or the inflated and the praising comments, because both can be just as destructive.
Mm.
Because if my
They label
actions,
yourself, right? Like
right,
yeah.
think about the sun. When we don't have the
Mhm.
sun, we're cold, we're shivery, we're wanting the sun. But if we have too much sun, we become burnt and
Mhm.
fried and crispy, right? We get
So I
too
got
much
to tell
exposure.
you, yeah, I got to tell you a story of what happened and like when you talk about confidence and just like so um Mother's Day, my mom came over and
Mm-hmm.
we had some hail damage, so we're getting a new roof and we're gonna need to paint I don't know, like the trim or whatever. We're
Yeah, so
painting,
it's
so then we're like,
other people did too, just to say. A lot of
oh
people
yeah,
got hail damage.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. We had a whole tornado come through our neighborhood. It was crazy.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, but anyways, but the hail wasn't from that tornado actually, so I
Yeah.
was lucky. But
New
we
roof.
we bypassed the tornado, but not the hail.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but anyways, so we were like, actually, this is so cool too. I want to change the color of my shutters. So we have like kind of like a stone front to our house, and
Yeah.
the shutters are like a brown that goes well with like the stone. And one day I was
Mm-hmm.
sitting on my front porch and I blinked like I do when I see spirits, like I'll blink and I'll see something. And I blinked and I saw my shutters blue. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have to have blue shutters. Like this is what we have to have. Like it's going to look so beautiful. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, since the painters are coming out, let's have them paint our shutters blue. So I had my mom over and she was like, oh, what like roof siding did you pick? And I was showing her the new shingle
Mm-hmm.
color.
Mm-hmm.
And um, and then I was like, and then I'm gonna paint my shutters blue. And she was like, oh God, blue? What? Oh, you mean she was like, your house is gonna be the rainbow house. It's gonna like she was, oh, she was so And like normally I would have been like, oh my God, like I don't know, maybe I
Yeah.
should second guess my blue. Now, I mean, I think the vision
Yeah.
definitely helped the
Yeah.
situation,
Yeah.
but or it would have like totally tanked my energy, like,
Yeah.
man, my mom, you know. And I just looked at her and I put my hand on her shoulder and I said, and you know what? Every time you drive by my house and you come over, you're gonna say, oh, that house is a rainbow house. And then you're gonna remember it reminds you of your daughter, and you're gonna be so happy that your daughter has a
Aw.
rainbow house that she loves. And I just, and like, it's like I sent it back in love, you
Yes.
know? And she
Yeah.
was like,
Yeah.
"Hmm," like she kind of said, and then we just went off. And like later in the day, I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe
How
that came,
natural
like
that came out.
how naturally it came out. Yes, that would have either like tanked me and I would have been like quiet
Yeah.
the rest of the day,
Yeah.
or that would have made me so nervous and I would have been like, well, what do you think? Should I do brown again? Should I do, you know, and I
Yeah.
would be nervous
Yeah.
about my decision. And
Yeah.
instead, I was just like, it's okay. It's okay
Mhm.
that you think it's a rainbow
Mhm.
house because
Mhm.
it's my house. And that
Mhm.
see the rainbow, you'll know that this is what I've designed, this is what I've built for myself, and it makes me
Yeah.
happy. And it'll make
Yeah.
you happy because of that.
Yeah.
Like, I was
That's
like,
awesome.
isn't that so
It
cool? I
is.
know.
Those are the wins. Those are, and I'm so glad you shared that with us, Maren, because those are the wins. Those are the celebratory wins that nobody's standing there and cheering and going, ah, yay, Maren. But yet
Yeah.
the unseen are. And those are the
Yeah.
things that are happening within you, and that shows the shift. That shows the
So
change, that shows exactly what's taking place. And that's monumental because that,
it was
like you said,
monumental for me.
it's something
Yeah.
that would have really hung on you, that you would have gone over, but I
Yes.
really love that. And what if it
Yeah.
is looked at as the weird house or and
Yes.
no, you know exactly what you want, why you want it. And you not only did that, you not only claimed that, but you also changed the energy of it and handed it back to her in love.
Yes. And I
That's
did
the
it so
key.
naturally.
And
Like
so
I was,
naturally without even thinking.
yes. I'm
Yeah.
like so happy with like the rock steady
Yeah.
confidence and like
And
inner
that's the
love,
real
you know?
stuff. That's the real stuff. That right there. And that's why I was saying the confidence that is built from within you, from working through your own stuff and
Yeah.
trusting through that process and allowing yourself to receive what you truly deserve within, that may not look like the path to walk on the outside, but that's the
Yeah.
confidence. It doesn't matter where that pendulum of acceptance on the outside swings. That's
Yeah.
the real stuff, and that's permanent. So what you said about, did I drink a juice and it's going to fade out, right? No,
Yeah.
because building from the inside, confidence that is true goes with you everywhere and anywhere and is there for life. It doesn't mean that life just stops happening. It doesn't mean difficult things don't present themselves or difficult people. It means that that space within you is no longer holding a container of somebody else's stuff. It has now filled with you.
It is
Yeah.
so true. Like, and like, I just don't even feel like upset about her comment. I
Yeah.
don't like, there's just no energy that I took from that situation.
Yeah.
The only thing that has residual is the fact that I can't believe that I handled it the way that I
Yeah.
did. You know what I
You're
mean?
not
Like,
leaking. You're not leaking. You're a
yes,
full container. You're
yes,
loving without leaking. And that
yes,
is what changes everything in our life. That right there. That is the embodiment of the work. That's it.
yeah. Oh, I
It's
feel it.
big.
I feel it 100%.
Yeah.
I was like thinking about it and spirit kind of, well, I like you say, like just like the filling up and whatnot, but then also just like I feel like a just perceptions have
Mhm.
been changed, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um and whenever we, and this is like what everyone always says, that everybody is a reflection of what's on your inside,
Mm-hmm.
And like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I'd be like, what do you mean? Like this is like a simulation and this person's here for me, but they're not here for me, but whatever. But no, it's like what is missing on the inside, like that fear or whatever it is what gets when someone says something, it gets projected back, right?
Right.
So if I was
Right.
worried about my house color, then I would be, or I was worried about the decisions that I would make, then I would be projecting something back in response to that comment. But
Yes. Yes.
because I was full, like you say, then that comment just doesn't
Right.
have the same thing because there's no like lower vibe for it to sync up
Right.
in. Right?
Right. There's nothing to absorb. It's not
Yeah.
there. It's like I like to use this all the time. I use this with my kids. I'm like, you're no longer sticky. You're not sticky. So it's like you're rubber. It was us saying when we were kids, I am rubber, you are glue.
Blue.
What bounces
Yeah.
off me sticks to you, except for more lovingly, right? Like,
That since I was a kid.
yeah.
Yes.
So it's like it's rubber. So
Yeah.
you're no longer absorbing things because you've walked through it. You've worked through it.
Yeah.
You no
Yeah.
longer avoid those feelings that would have brought you to the place of trying to fix it.
Yeah.
And that's the key too. Because as healers, as those in the family that are more sensitive or in your group that's more sensitive, because we have that container through life of being able to see different levels of what's going on, and you're like, why am I always the one that's like trying to fix things? Why am I always the one navigating through all this difficulty?
Yeah.
Well, when you embody the energy through the work, and remember it's used in different languages, it's healing, it's upgrading, it's vibrational. It doesn't matter what language you use. What it is that you become, through experience, through the actual inner work, you no longer feel the need or require, and you do not speak it, you actually embody it, that you accept people where they are, and you no longer exhaust your energy to fix them. Because
Yes. Or to
why
feel like you
are
need to fix
we,
yourself.
or feel like we need, right? Why are
Yeah.
we, first of all, why do we feel we have to fix somebody else to be more comfortable, for one?
Yeah.
And why do we keep feeling like we need to fix ourselves? Like you just
Yeah.
said, what's wrong with who I am? What's wrong with why I want blue shutters? What's wrong
Yeah.
with that? Because it doesn't fit in the color scheme of the neighborhood? Mm-mm. No. But if I liked brown and it fit, great. But I love blue.
It's it's interesting because I did pick out the brown when we first moved in. We
Yeah,
painted the shutters brown, and I thought it
but
was
you've
fabulous and
shifted.
it looked great, but I've shifted.
Yes, yes, yes,
You happy
yes,
blue, more
yes.
inviting and, you
Yes,
know,
it's very true. It is all perspective. And my daughter and I went to the grocery store, my oldest daughter, and she's in a place right now. Sh A great amount of healing is taking place, but she is very sensitive. And we were coming out of the grocery store. We were just coming towards the entrance, and I'd forgot my grocery bags, my reusable bags in the truck. So I was like, oh, that's okay. We'll just put it all in the cart and we'll pack it before we get in the truck. So I had some smaller items that I was concerned that they were going to fall through the grocery, onto the ground, that I
mhm,
would lose them. So I just stopped and I was like, I just want to look for this little box to make sure it doesn't fall through the cart and lose it. And I stopped, like there wasn't a lot of people when I stopped, but as I'm looking, more people were lining up behind us. We were kind of in the way of the aisleway of going out the door. And so this man comes up behind us, and he was just a little bit, kind of, you could feel the gruffness in him. And he's like, that's a really crappy place to stop, you
oh my
know?
god,
And,
yeah,
and so I just turned and I was like, oh, okay, sorry. And I just moved over, and my daughter, you could tell it just like hit her.
hitter,
She
yeah,
just, you could just see it, and she was looking at him, and she's looking at me, and she was getting, you could even tell in her body language. And so I didn't say anything. And then I moved ahead, and she's like, that guy, that was not very nice. And I said, well, no, maybe not. It wasn't nice the way you said it, Maya, but, you know, we we were kind of standing in the wrong place. And I said, honestly, I said, that's why I said sorry, not because he was gruff and intimidated me. I said sorry because I was standing out in the walking aisle, and even though there weren't people standing there when I first pulled the cart over, there were people trying to get out. That's why I said sorry. And she kind of went over it and over it. It was really bothering her. And it's interesting because she's not holding things in. She's really, and this is my daughter that has had the seizures, which have lessened a great deal. But she was like hugely. And she was going over it, but speaking it out loud. And I knew that this was really important. Something so simple like that. It was so important that she was just working it through. Well, interestingly enough, out of the whole entire parking lot, this man was parked directly across from us. So our tailgates, he had a truck as well. Our tailgates were up at the same time. He's right there. And so we go walking up, and he's just ahead of us, and she goes, "You have got to be kidding me. He's right across from us." And she's like, and I could tell she was starting to get uncomfortable. And I said, Maya, just go sit in the truck. And I said, you know what? I said, you never know what's going on with people. You don't know what's going on in their day. That wasn't personal. It had nothing to do with us. I said, the way that he spoke or anything has nothing to do with us. I said, there's no need to correct him. There's no need to say, hey, watch your tone or anything else like that, which there would have been a day I would have done that. And I said, there's no need for that. I said, but furthermore, I said, just sit in the truck and just kind of say, like, why does that bother me so much? Like, why am I taking responsibility for that? And then she actually says, well, because I feel like the first thing that comes up is I feel shame. Like I feel like I'm doing something wrong. And then she was able to start to connect that to different things. Now, I will tell you, these type of incidents out in public would be like precursors for a seizure for her.
Wow.
And it was really
Right.
fascinating to watch because and not that it was that issue that did it. It's the buildup of because she feels so much and
Yeah.
absorbs so much. So exactly what you were speaking of, that leaking, that is what she's done for a very long time. Because you also have to remember too, 10 years ago, we started a cancer journey. And that cancer journey, my kids were always sensitive. And so having our family go through illness and a lot of things that people didn't understand or see because it happened all behind closed doors. A lot of the really hard stuff that we went through. And so for her, all my kids, I think to a certain degree, they kind of held themselves in, but they would all go back out into the world and hear things and feel things. And one thing she brought up yesterday, which I thought was really interesting, once we got in the truck and we were driving home, she said, Mom, she goes, I know this doesn't upset you for me to say this now, but she goes, I remember when you first came to the school after your hair started to grow back. And she goes, you weren't bald, but I'm like, but I had sprouts. I had sprouts, like little sprouts. And she goes, yeah, and you were really proud because you actually had something there and it wasn't shiny anymore, so you didn't wear a wig. You decided that you were just going to wear the sprouts. I said, yeah, I remember. And she goes, and we had an assembly at school. And you walked in, and she goes, all the grade 7 and 8 started laughing. They started like laughing out loud and calling you Baldy and stuff.
Are you
And it
serious?
wasn't, yeah. And I did remember
To know
that.
enough about cancer not to do that, especially
Well,
7
I don't think
year old.
some of them didn't know, maybe. I don't know. Like, I didn't really. She said that some of them did, but they were calling me like Caillou. Like, the little
Oh,
cartoon
the
guy
little,
Caillou and stuff and that. So, and they weren't like doing it right out loud and pointing. It was kind of one of those moments where I knew something was going on.
Yeah.
But at that point I was like, I wasn't in a space where I was even going to engage with that, but
Right.
not really thinking about the full effect that had on my kids, because my focus with my kids was really helping them navigate how they felt, what was going on with me, and they never talked about that. So I didn't even know if they experienced it because they weren't
Yeah.
even in the auditorium when it started. So I'd forgotten all about that. And she just said to me, it made me so angry. And I felt so protective and I felt so much shame. But I mean, she goes, I couldn't describe that at the time. But she says, I remember those 5 kids that started it got pulled into a room right away by a teacher and they got scolded big time. And she says, and they came back into the auditorium with their heads hanging like they were really, and they had to apologize to me and Shelby. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. And so what was brought up yesterday was when that man said that to me. And he said, hey, that's a really bad place. And he was kind of gruff. It triggered her to remind her of the feeling of when somebody said something about me, like a protectiveness, an
Yeah.
anger
Yeah.
that wasn't hers to take, but it brought her back to that feeling in her body of he doesn't even know what we're doing. He thinks we're just dumb and standing in the middle of the aisleway and blocking because we're not paying attention. And so it's that whole feeling, and that is something I think everybody can align with. Something,
Yeah.
those simple moments of when,
Yeah.
something happens, and especially being sensitive, it's like a continuous misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And you can get labeled easily because of perspective, you
Yeah.
know. And again, like I said to Maya, you don't know what's going on with that man. Maybe that man has somebody sick at home. Maybe, maybe like we don't know why people say what they say. And it doesn't mean that we have to be like accepting of it. But here's the
And
whole
it could
point of what
come
we
out of,
do.
yeah. And for him, though, it could come out of his empty spot in his heart where, like, he's worried about you and he doesn't
Yeah.
want you to get hurt. And it came
It,
across rough. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yes,
he's
exactly. Because it's
aware
all
of
perspective.
danger or something. Yeah.
That's right. It doesn't mean that it is this engagement of, there's a problem, but being in a state of defense for a
Yeah.
very long time trains the nervous system to be on
Yeah.
guard. And even
Yeah.
though my nervous system isn't on guard anymore, that doesn't mean everyone in my family is in the same place. So it was very interesting and very healing, and I'm very proud of her because she was able to identify that. Not only that, but she spoke very freely about it and got it all out, and she had no seizure. Nothing happened.
Amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
That's amazing that she was able to process that
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
come up with
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. It's really good.
Well, um, we got to get into a kind of a special talk, but I think we were going to make it a 2-part episode. Maybe we should make it part
Yeah.
2.
Yeah, we're gonna have to make it a part 2 because we did, and also, so this weekend is the Canadian long weekend, and I'm
Oh,
really grateful to have time to be with my family, and we're not going away. We have a few things planned. We're not going away, and so that's why I'm here today. But next weekend is the US long weekend, and you're going away,
anyway.
and
Mhm.
it's your birthday. It's a special birthday. So
Yes.
that leads into what we're going to be talking about in part 2. So we're going to dangle it here for you, everybody. We're going to tell you part 2, which will be on the next Monday on the US long weekend. And so rather than having an oldie posted, we're going to post part 2, and we'll see you guys all there. So for today, what Maren and I will say is to stay grounded, stay healthy, stay in love. Remember, everything is a perspective,
Mhm.
and we will see you next time.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for listening.
See ya.